The sun had long set over the broken city of New Haven. In this part of town, no one cared about sunsets. The streets were dark, lit only by flickering neon signs that buzzed like angry insects. Buildings leaned against each other as if they couldn't stand alone anymore. Trash littered the ground, and the air smelled of oil and smoke. This was the place where hope went to die. Marcus Kane lived here. He didn't choose this life. It chose him. Years ago, he had been someone else. A soldier, a Navy SEAL, a man who could do anything. But now he was just another face in the crowd. His legs were gone, replaced by old prosthetics that creaked when he walked. They weren't fancy like the cybernetic limbs rich people used. These were cheap, second-hand things that barely worked. Still, Marcus didn't complain. He knew worse fates existed. Every day, Marcus woke up before dawn. He didn't need an alarm clock. His body had learned to rise early during his days in the military. After brushing his teeth and drinking a cup of black coffee, he headed to work. His job wasn't glamorous. He fixed machines at a small repair shop, but it paid enough to keep food on the table. More importantly, it kept him busy. When you've seen too much war, silence can drive you mad. Today, however, something felt different. As Marcus stepped outside, the air seemed heavier than usual. Maybe it was the storm clouds gathering above, or maybe it was the sound of engines roaring in the distance. Either way, Marcus tightened his grip on his cane and kept walking. He didn't have time for bad feelings. Not today. The repair shop was located near the edge of the neighborhood, close to the scrapyard where dangerous gangs often hung out. Marcus hated going there, but he didn't have a choice. The owner of the shop, Mr. Patel, always gave him extra hours if he delivered parts to customers nearby. And Marcus needed those hours. As he approached the corner store to pick up a package, he noticed a group of kids gathered around a young boy. The boy looked scared, clutching a small box tightly in his hands. Standing over him were three men wearing leather jackets covered in spikes. Their faces were hidden behind helmets, but their voices carried menace. "Give us what you stole," one of them growled, "or we'll make sure you regret it." Marcus stopped. His heart pounded in his chest. He recognized these men immediately. They were members of the Iron Reapers, the most feared gang in the area. Everyone knew their name. They ruled the streets with fists of steel and hearts of stone. No one dared to cross them. For a moment, Marcus thought about turning away. What business was it of his? He was just a disabled man trying to survive. What could he possibly do against armed bikers? But then he saw the boy's eyes. They were wide with fear, tears streaming down his cheeks. That look reminded Marcus of himself as a child, helpless, alone, and desperate for someone to step in. So he did. "Leave him alone," Marcus said, stepping forward. His voice was calm but firm. The bikers turned to look at him, surprise flashing across their faces. One of them laughed. Well, look what we have here," the leader sneered. "A cripple thinks he can tell us what to do." Marcus ignored the insult. He pointed his cane at them. "I said leave him alone. You're scaring him." The bikers exchanged glances, then burst into laughter. "You hear that, boys?" the leader said. "This guy wants to play hero." He walked closer to Marcus, towering over him. "Tell me, cripple, how are you going to stop us? With that stick?" Ravager's anger. When Ravager, the leader of the Iron Reapers, heard about the attack, he exploded with rage. "Who did this?" he roared, pacing back and forth in his makeshift office. "Who dared to come into my territory and destroy my property?" His men shifted nervously, unsure how to answer. Finally, one of them spoke up. "It was that guy. The cripple. We saw him. He took down two of our men single-handedly." Ravager froze, his eyes narrowing. "A cripple? You're telling me some disabled man broke into my base and beat you?" "Yes, sir," the biker stammered. "He had some kind of suit. Made him super strong." For a moment, Ravager was silent. Then he laughed bitterly. "So that's how it is. Fine. If this cripple wants a war, I'll give him one. Tell everyone, we're hunting him down tonight," revealing his strength. Later that night, Marcus returned to the neighborhood. Word had spread about the attack on the scrapyard, and people whispered excitedly about the mysterious man in the suit. Some called him a hero. Others feared him. Either way, everyone was talking. As Marcus walked through the streets, he noticed a group of bikers patrolling the area. They spotted him immediately and revved their engines, racing toward him. Marcus stopped, standing tall despite the odds. He recognized their leader. It was Ravager himself. "You've been causing problems," Ravager growled, stepping off his bike. "Do you have any idea who you're messing with?" Marcus tilted his head slightly, his expression calm. I know exactly who you are. A bully, a thief, and a coward. Ravager's face twisted with anger. You talk big for someone who can barely walk. Without warning, Ravager charged at Marcus, pulling out a knife. But Marcus was faster. Activating the exoskeleton's speed boost, he dodged the attack and countered with a powerful kick. Ravager stumbled backward, clutching his chest. The other bikers hesitated, unsure what to do. None of them had seen anyone move like that before. Marcus seized the opportunity, taking down 3 more men with quick, precise strikes. The rest fled, too scared to fight back. When the dust settled, Ravager lay on the ground, defeated. Marcus leaned down, his voice low and cold. This isn't over, he said. Next time I won't hold back. Then he turned and walked away, leaving Ravager and his gang humiliated. Gaining respect. Back in the neighborhood, people cheered when they saw Marcus return. For years, they'd lived in fear of the Iron Reapers. Now, thanks to Marcus, they felt hope again. Children ran up to him, asking questions about the suit. Adults shook his hand, thanking him for standing up to the gang. But Marcus didn't seek praise. He simply nodded and kept walking. Inside, though, he felt a sense of satisfaction. He had shown the world, and himself, that he was still a warrior. Still strong. Still capable of making a difference. That night, as he sat in his apartment repairing the exoskeleton, Zara joined him. You really scared them today, she said with a grin. Marcus shrugged. They needed to know what they're up against. And now they do, Zara replied. What's next? Marcus paused, thinking carefully. Now we finish this, once and for all. So, the cripple decided to show up. Ravager sneered, leaping down to meet him. Let's see what you've got. The 2 men circled each other, sizing each other up. Ravager struck first, swinging his plasma blade in a wide arc. Marcus ducked, narrowly avoiding the deadly weapon. He countered with a swift kick, sending Ravager stumbling backward. You're tougher than I thought, Ravager admitted, regaining his footing. But you'll never beat me. We'll see about that, Marcus replied, activating the exoskeleton's full power. What followed was a brutal fight. Ravager used his cybernetic enhancements to their fullest potential, moving faster and hitting harder than any human should. His plasma blade sliced through metal like butter, forcing Marcus to dodge constantly. But Marcus was relentless. The exoskeleton amplified his strength, allowing him to match Ravager blow for blow. At one point, Ravager managed to land a hit, slicing across Marcus' chest plate. Sparks flew, and Marcus stumbled, pain shooting through his body. But he refused to fall. Clenching his fists, he roared and charged at Ravager, tackling him to the ground. They grappled fiercely, rolling across the scrapyard floor. Ravager tried to stab Marcus with the plasma blade, but Marcus caught his wrist and twisted it until the weapon clattered away. Then, with one final burst of strength, Marcus pinned Ravager down, holding him immobile. It's over, Marcus growled, his voice filled with determination. Ravager spat at him, his eyes blazing with hatred. You think this changes anything? You're nothing but a broken man playing hero. No, Marcus said firmly. I'm someone who won't let bullies like you win. With that, he pressed a button on the remote detonator. Explosions rocked the scrapyard as hidden charges went off, destroying the gang's base and scattering the remaining bikers. Flames lit up the night sky, signaling the end of the Iron Reaper's reign. Victory and loss. When the dust settled, Marcus released Ravager, leaving him bruised and defeated. The once feared leader crawled away, too humiliated to speak. Around them, the surviving members of the gang fled, abandoning their bikes and weapons. Marcus turned to check on his team. Everyone was battered but alive. Captain Reyes limped over, blood dripping from a cut on his forehead, but he was smiling. We did it, he said, clapping Marcus on the shoulder. You did it. Zara ran up next, tears streaming down her face. Is it really over? She asked. For now, Marcus replied, his voice steady, but we can't let our guard down. People like Ravager always come back. He looked around at the wreckage, the charred remains of bikes, piles of destroyed tech, and the faces of his allies. Despite the pain and exhaustion, he felt a sense of pride. They had fought together, risked everything, and won. Still, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that the war wasn't truly over. Somewhere out there, bigger threats lurked. Corporations and criminals far worse than the Iron Reapers controlled the city. Tonight's victory was just one step toward a better future. A new beginning. Back in the neighborhood, people celebrated long into the night. Music played, food was shared, and laughter echoed through the streets. For the first time in years, the air felt lighter, freer. Children danced under the stars, imagining themselves as heroes like Marcus. But Marcus stayed quiet, sitting alone on a rooftop overlooking the celebration. He thought about the battles he fought, the lives lost along the way, and the sacrifices yet to come. Being a hero wasn't easy. It meant carrying burdens others couldn't understand. "You okay?" Zara asked, joining him on the rooftop. Marcus nodded. "Yeah, just thinking." "About what?" "About tomorrow," he said simply. "And the day after that." Zara smiled softly. "Well, whatever comes next, we'll face it together." Marcus returned her smile, feeling a spark of hope ignite within him. No matter how hard the road ahead might be, he wasn't walking it alone anymore. "I don't have a choice," Marcus replied, his voice firm. "They won't stop until someone stops them." Raya sighed. "You're not the same man you used to be. You're injured, outnumbered, and outgunned. Fighting like this will get you killed." "Maybe," Marcus admitted. "But dying isn't what scares me. It's letting them win, letting them hurt innocent people." For a moment, Raya said nothing. Then he nodded. "All right. If you're going to do this, you'll need a plan. And backup. ####** building an army ****. With Raya's help, Marcus started gathering allies. Not many people dared to stand against the Iron Reapers, but a few brave souls joined the cause. There was Maria, a nurse who patched up victims of gang violence. Jamal, a mechanic who provided weapons and gear, and even a group of teenagers eager to protect their families. Rise taught everyone basic combat skills, focusing on teamwork and strategy. Under his guidance, the group learned how to move silently, set traps, and strike quickly. Marcus led the training sessions, pushing everyone to their limits. He knew they wouldn't survive unless they were prepared. Meanwhile, word spread about Marcus' plans. The Iron Reapers heard rumors of a disabled man planning to fight back. At first, they laughed. "What can a cripple do?" they mocked. But soon strange things started happening. Their patrols were ambushed. Their bikes were sabotaged. Their weapons disappeared overnight. Ravager, the leader of the gang, grew furious. "Find this guy and bring him to me," he ordered his men. "I want to know who's messing with us." ###** a small victory ****. One night, Marcus decided to test the exoskeleton in real combat. He and Zara set up a trap near the bikers' favorite hangout, a rundown bar filled with stolen goods and illegal tech. As the gang gathered inside, Marcus sneaked around the back, disabling security cameras and cutting power lines. When the lights went out, chaos erupted. The bikers scrambled outside, shouting curses and waving flashlights. That's when Marcus struck. Moving faster than anyone expected, he disarmed two men before they realized what was happening. His punches landed hard, powered by the exoskeleton's strength. Within minutes, half the gang lay unconscious on the ground. The rest fled, too scared to fight back. As Marcus walked away, Ravager stepped out of the shadows, his face twisted with rage. "You think you're clever, don't you?" he snarled. "This isn't over." Marcus stopped, but didn't turn around. "No," he said calmly. "It's just beginning." ###** building suspense ****. Back at his apartment, Marcus examined the damage to the exoskeleton. Though it had performed well, certain parts needed reinforcement. He also realized he couldn't keep fighting alone. Sooner or later, the Iron Reapers would come after him with everything they had. Zara noticed his worried expression. "You okay?" she asked. Marcus nodded. "Yeah, just thinking." "About what?" "About how much longer we can hold out," he admitted. "They're dangerous, Zara. Stronger than we thought." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then we'll get stronger too. Together." Marcus smiled faintly. For the first time in weeks, he felt a glimmer of hope. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he wasn't walking it alone anymore. Marcus didn't answer. Instead, he moved quickly, using his cane to knock the leader off balance. The biker stumbled backward, caught off guard. For a split second, the others hesitated, but then they recovered and surrounded Marcus, weapons drawn. "You made a big mistake," one of them snarled. "Now you're gonna pay." They attacked. Marcus fought back as best he could, swinging his cane and dodging blows. But he was outnumbered and outmatched. Their kicks landed hard against his prosthetic legs, sending sharp pain shooting through his body. Eventually, they pinned him to the ground, laughing as they kicked him again and again. "See?" the leader spat. You're nothing, just a useless piece of trash. When they finally left, taking the boy's box with them, Marcus lay there in the dirt. His body ached, and his pride stung worse than any punch. But deep inside, something stirred, something he hadn't felt in years. Anger and determination. He wouldn't let them win. Not this time. Adding depth to the setting. New Haven wasn't always like this. Once it had been a thriving city filled with dreams and opportunities. But greed and corruption changed everything. Rich corporations built towering skyscrapers in the center while leaving the outskirts to rot. People without money or power struggled to survive, forced to live among ruins and gangs. In this world, technology had divided society even further. Those with wealth enjoyed advanced cybernetic enhancements, arms stronger than steel, legs faster than cars, and eyes that could see in the dark. But for people like Marcus, such luxuries were out of reach. All he had were his wits, his experience, and the stubborn belief that he could still make a difference. Despite his hardships, Marcus never lost sight of who he was. Even after losing his legs in combat, he refused to give up. Every morning, he trained his body until sweat soaked through his shirt. Push-ups, sit-ups, stretches, he did whatever he could to stay strong. Some might call it pointless. After all, what good was strength when you couldn't walk properly? But Marcus knew better. Strength wasn't just about muscles. It was about willpower. About standing up when everyone expected you to fall. And right now, he needed every ounce of strength he could muster. Foreshadowing future events. Later that night, as Marcus sat in his tiny apartment nursing his bruises, he stared at the wall. On it hung a framed photo of his old Navy SEAL team. Back then, they were unstoppable. They faced impossible odds and came out victorious every time. Now Marcus was alone. But maybe not for long. His gaze shifted to the corner of the room, where a dusty toolbox sat untouched. Inside it was something special, an old prototype exoskeleton Marcus had found months ago. At the time, he'd thought it was useless junk. But now he wondered if it could help him fight back. As sleep claimed him, Marcus dreamed of battlefields and victories, of enemies falling before him. For the first time in years, he smiled in his sleep. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, he would start preparing. The day had finally come. Marcus stood at the edge of the scriptyard, staring into the heart of the Iron Reaper's territory. His exoskeleton gleamed under the pale moonlight, its metallic frame ready for battle. Behind him, his small team, Zara, Captain Reyes, and a few brave locals, waited silently. They all knew this was it. There would be no turning back after tonight. Marcus took a deep breath. He could feel the weight of everything resting on his shoulders. If they failed, the Iron Reapers would crush them, and everyone else who dared to resist. But if they succeeded, well, maybe the neighborhood could breathe freely again. Remember the plan, Marcus said, his voice low but firm. Stick together. Watch each other's backs. And don't stop until it's done. Everyone nodded. Zara handed him a small device, a remote detonator linked to explosives planted throughout the scriptyard. For when you're ready, she whispered. Marcus gave her a quick nod, then turned toward the entrance. With one last glance at his team, he stepped forward, his exoskeleton humming softly as he moved. Breaking through, the first wave of bikers came fast. As soon as Marcus entered the scriptyard, alarms blared, and lights flickered on, illuminating the chaos around him. Dozens of bikers appeared from every direction, revving their engines and shouting insults. "You're dead," one of them yelled, charging straight at Marcus. But Marcus didn't flinch. Activating the suit's boost mode, he darted to the side, dodging the biker's attack. Before the man could recover, Marcus grabbed him by the arm and hurled him into a pile of junk. Another biker swung a metal pipe, but Marcus blocked it effortlessly, his armored arms absorbing the blow. A single punch sent the attacker sprawling to the ground. More bikers swarmed in, surrounding Marcus. For a moment, it looked like he might be overwhelmed. But then reinforcements arrived. Captain Reyes led a group of fighters into the fray, armed with makeshift weapons, pipes, bats, and even kitchen knives. Together, they fought side by side, taking down bikers left and right. Meanwhile, Zara stayed hidden, using hacked security cameras to guide the team through the scriptyard. Over comms, her voice crackled urgently. "Marcus, there's a trap ahead. Watch out for spikes." Marcus froze just in time, spotting a row of sharp metal spikes hidden beneath a tarp. He jumped over them, landing gracefully on the other side. Behind him, two bikers weren't so lucky. They tripped and fell, impaling themselves on the spikes. "They're falling apart," Zara said, her tone triumphant. Keep pushing. Facing Ravager. As the battle raged on, Marcus worked his way deeper into the scriptyard. His goal was clear: find Ravager, the gang's leader, and take him down. Without Ravager, the Iron Reapers would collapse. Finally, he found him. Ravager stood atop a pile of scrap metal, watching the chaos unfold below. His cybernetic arm glowed faintly, its plasma blade humming with energy. When he saw Marcus approaching, he grinned cruelly. The morning after the battle, sunlight streamed through the broken windows of New Haven. The streets were quieter than usual, but not because of fear, because of peace. For the first time in years, people walked freely without glancing over their shoulders. Children played outside without worrying about gangs or violence. It was as if the entire neighborhood had taken a deep breath, finally able to relax. Marcus stood near the edge of the scriptyard, surveying the destruction. Flames still smoldered in some places, and twisted metal lay scattered across the ground. What once had been the Iron Reaper's stronghold was now nothing more than ruins. The gang that had terrorized the area for so long was gone, or at least weakened enough to never return. But Marcus didn't feel triumphant. Instead, he felt empty. Not sadness exactly, but a strange mix of exhaustion and relief. He had fought hard, risked everything, and won. Yet he knew this wasn't the end. There would always be another Ravager, another gang, another bully waiting to take advantage of the weak. Evil never truly disappeared. It only changed shape. Still, Marcus couldn't deny the difference he'd made. As he walked back toward the neighborhood, people greeted him warmly. Some called him a hero. Others simply thanked him for standing up when no one else would. Marcus nodded politely, but didn't linger. He wasn't comfortable with praise. All he wanted was to make sure the fight hadn't been for nothing. Rebuilding the community. Over the next few weeks, life began to change in New Haven. With the Iron Reapers gone, the neighborhood started healing. People cleaned up the streets, repaired damaged buildings, and reopened shops that had been closed for years. Slowly but surely, hope returned. Marcus played a big role in this transformation. Though he didn't seek attention, he became a symbol of strength and resilience. People looked to him for guidance, asking how they could protect themselves if trouble came again. At first, Marcus hesitated. He wasn't a teacher or a leader. He was just a man who had done what he thought was right. But then he realized something important. If he wanted the neighborhood to stay safe, he needed to teach others how to defend themselves. So Marcus began holding training sessions. Every evening, he gathered a group of kids and adults in an empty lot near his apartment. Using old boxing gloves, wooden sticks, and whatever else he could find, he taught them basic self-defense techniques. He also shared lessons from his days as a Navy SEAL: how to stay calm under pressure, how to work as a team, and most importantly, how to believe in themselves. Strength isn't just about muscles, Marcus often said during these sessions. It's about heart, about standing up even when you're scared. The participants listened eagerly, soaking up every word. Some were shy at first, unsure if they could ever measure up to someone like Marcus. But over time, they grew braver. They learned to trust each other, to support one another, and to stand tall against bullies. One boy, named Jamal, reminded Marcus of himself as a child. Jamal had been the same kid Marcus had saved from the bikers months ago, the one clutching that stolen box. Now Jamal was learning how to throw punches and block attacks. His eyes sparkled with determination, and Marcus couldn't help but smile whenever he saw him practicing. "You've got potential," Marcus told Jamal one day. "Keep going, and you'll surprise yourself." Jamal grinned. "Thanks, Mr. Kane. I won't let you down." Personal growth. While Marcus helped others grow stronger, he also worked on himself. Each night, after the training sessions ended, he returned to his apartment and reflected on everything that had happened. He thought about the battles he fought, the sacrifices he'd made, and the lives he touched. Sometimes memories of his past haunted him: the war, the loss of his legs, the pain of feeling useless. But instead of letting those thoughts drag him down, Marcus used them as fuel. They reminded him why he kept fighting, not just for himself, but for everyone who deserved a better life. Zara noticed the change in him. She visited often, bringing updates on new tech she was working on or sharing stories about the community's progress. One evening, as they sat together on the rooftop overlooking the neighborhood, Zara spoke up. "You seem different," she said, her voice soft. "Happier, maybe." Marcus chuckled. "I don't know about happy, but I feel lighter, like I'm doing something that matters." "It does matter," Sarah replied firmly. "Look at what you've done. You've given people hope." That's not something everyone can say. Marcus looked out at the bustling streets below. Kids laughed as they chased each other, and adults chatted while hanging laundry on lines stretched between buildings. It was far from perfect, but it was alive. Thriving, even. I couldn't have done it alone, Marcus admitted. You, Captain Reyes, everyone, they all helped. I'm just glad we made a difference. Zara smiled, and you'll keep making a difference. This isn't the end, you know. There's still so much work to do. A twist ending. Just as Marcus began settling into his new role as a mentor and protector, Zara discovered something unsettling. While tinkering with the exoskeleton one afternoon, she stumbled upon hidden files embedded in its systems. These weren't ordinary documents. They were classified military records detailing secret experiments conducted by powerful corporations. According to the files, the Iron Reapers weren't just a random gang. They were part of a larger network funded by wealthy elites who wanted to control the city. Marcus, you need to see this, Zara said urgently, showing him the data. This goes way beyond the Reapers. There are other gangs like them, controlled by these companies. And they're planning something big. Marcus frowned, staring at the screen. What kind of plan? I'm not sure yet, Zara admitted, but it's bad, really bad. For a moment, Marcus was silent. Then he sighed, rubbing his temples. Of course it doesn't end here, he muttered. Why would it? Despite the weight of this revelation, Marcus didn't panic. If anything, he felt more determined than ever. The fight wasn't over, but neither was he. With the exoskeleton, his skills, and the support of his friends, he knew he could face whatever came next. We'll figure it out, Marcus said, his voice steady. Together. The days passed quickly as Marcus and his team prepared for the fight ahead. They knew it wouldn't be easy. The Iron Reapers were dangerous, armed with high-tech weapons and ruthless tactics. But Marcus wasn't afraid anymore. He had a plan, and he had something they didn't expect, the exoskeleton. Every night, Marcus trained harder than ever. With Zara's upgrades, the suit was stronger and faster than before. Its arms could lift heavy objects, its legs allowed him to run like lightning, and its chest plate protected him from bullets. But Marcus didn't just rely on the suit. He used everything he'd learned as a Navy SEAL: stealth, strategy, and precision. Still, there was one problem. The Iron Reapers didn't know who they were dealing with yet. They thought Marcus was just a disabled man trying to cause trouble. To truly scare them, Marcus needed to show them what he was capable of. He needed to send a message. A bold move. One evening, Marcus decided it was time. He gathered his allies, Zara, Captain Reyes, and a few others, and explained his plan. Tonight, we hit them hard, he said. We'll take out their bikes, sabotage their base, and let them know I'm not backing down. Everyone nodded, ready to follow Marcus into battle. Together, they headed toward the Iron Reapers' territory, a large scrapyard filled with broken cars, rusted metal, and piles of junk. This was where the gang stored their stolen goods and repaired their bikes. It was also heavily guarded. As they approached, Marcus gave each person a task. Zara stayed hidden nearby, monitoring the situation through hacked security cameras. Captain Reyes led a small group to create distractions while Marcus moved in silently. His goal was simple: destroy as much as possible without being seen. The attack begins. Under the cover of darkness, Marcus slipped into the scrapyard. The exoskeleton made no sound as he walked, its advanced design blending into the shadows. He moved carefully, avoiding guards and watching for traps. When he reached the first row of bikes, he smiled grimly. These machines were the pride of the Iron Reapers. Without them, the gang would lose their speed and power. Marcus pulled out a small device Zara had built, a magnetic pulse generator. With a press of a button, the device sent a surge of energy through the bikes, frying their engines. One by one, the sleek motorcycles became useless hunks of metal. Marcus worked quickly, disabling dozens of bikes before moving deeper into the yard. Meanwhile, Captain Reyes and his team created chaos outside. They threw smoke bombs and shouted insults, drawing the attention of the guards. Confused and angry, the bikers rushed out to investigate, leaving their base vulnerable. Inside the scrapyard, Marcus continued his mission. He found stacks of stolen tech, phones, computers, and other gadgets and smashed them to pieces. Then he located the gang's fuel tanks and planted explosives. If everything went according to plan, the explosion would destroy most of their supplies. But as Marcus set the timer, he heard footsteps behind him. Turning quickly, he saw two bikers pointing guns at him. Their helmets hid their faces, but their voices carried menace. Well, one of them sneered. Look who we caught sneaking around. Marcus didn't say a word. Instead, he activated the exoskeleton's boost mode. In an instant, he lunged forward, grabbing one biker by the throat and slamming him into the ground. The second biker fired his gun, but the bullets bounced off the suit's armored chest. Before the man could react, Marcus punched him so hard he flew backward, hitting a pile of scrap metal. By the time the rest of the gang arrived, Marcus was already gone. The only evidence of his presence was the mess he'd left behind: destroyed bikes, shattered tech, and the faint smell of burning wires.